everyone! I am here. It's been a second since I made a video. I think the last one I made was in January, and I thought that it was about time that I got back to YouTube and that I updated you guys on where I've been and what I've been doing after all this time and why haven't I made a video and everything. So I've been having some ups and downs, let me tell you. Nothing that many of you haven't experienced yourself, so here we go. Let me just explain, and then I also want to talk a bit about the ECFMG accreditation process. So the last time we talked, I was just about to take a second or retake CBSE. And so for those of you who didn't see my last video or who might be new to my channel, the CBSE is the clinical or comprehensive basic science exam, and a lot of Caribbean med students will call it COMP. And so basically at a lot of Caribbean medical schools, you're required to take a pre-qualifying exam called the CBSE before you're allowed to actually sit for step one. And the whole purpose of it is to prepare you to be able to test in a similar scenario to step one, just to make sure that you don't fail, because especially for IMGs, failing step one is a really big deal and you don't want to do that, so this is kind of a way to avoid that. So the sad part of the story is that shortly after I made that video, I think it was like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something, after that I got my scores back and I had failed again with the same score that I had failed with the first time, so just 2 points below passing. And at the time I was obviously very upset, not upset as the first time. I wasn't too surprised, honestly, because I felt like I was in such a rut after I failed in November. And it took me a while to be able to get back on the studying horse, you could say. I was just so exhausted. I had been studying for months. I was confused about why I didn't pass, especially after, only missing 2 points on the first try. And I had a vacation over the Christmas holidays that I couldn't, not go to because I had been planning it with my family for months. And so I have no excuses other than I was just not in the right mindset to be able to study as hard as I needed to in order to pass that exam. And so once I got my score back the second time, I realized it was obviously time for me to really buckle down, because I did not want this process to be dragged out any longer. And I'm not going to talk too much about that whole experience in this video. I was actually going to make a blog post about it, just my experience with dealing with failure and how I got back on the horse and stuff like that. But this isn't the right time for that. So it was at that point that I decided that I needed to either buy a course or go to a course, because studying on my own was not being effective enough for me. I clearly did not improve my scores much. Yes, I did not study as much as I could have, so that's probably why I didn't pass the second time, but I knew that I needed to do a little bit more in order to actually get myself back on the horse and get myself to stay disciplined, and a course is a great way to do that. So I ended up between then and now, I did the DIT Step 1 review course, and I also attended a live USMLE Step 1 review course in Chicago, and that was USMLE Success Academy. I'm not sure if any of you guys have heard of it, but that was actually recommended to me by someone on Twitter who I met, who reached out to me, and she had been through a similar experience. She had failed her exams multiple times, and she just wanted to pass it on as a friend. So I did it, and between that and DIT, my scores raised a ton, and so I passed the CBSE, which is great. So yay me, I'm so happy. It honestly felt like it was never gonna happen, and there were so many times where I just felt stupid. I felt like I was slow. I felt like my brain was completely saturated and that I would just never be able to learn anything more than what I had already learned. And so, like I said before, it was just, there were a lot of ups and downs, both academically, emotionally, and mentally. And so getting, that passing score eventually was just a huge accomplishment for me. And it felt like maybe it shouldn't seem like a huge accomplishment, because the average medical student in the States only studies for 2 months for step 1. But any of you who are studying for this board exam, either from a Caribbean school or from any other international school, will know that it is kind of this big behemoth of an exam that just somehow is so difficult. So now that I have finally passed the CBSE, I thought I would kind of give you guys the lowdown on what happens next, because I didn't know really the process of what would happen after this, and I feel like a lot of students are kind of kept in the dark by admin at their school. That's how it is, I feel like, at my school. I ask questions about things and somehow they always seem to find a way to not answer my questions. So here we go. So you pass CBSE, number one thing, obviously. Then after that, within 30 days of passing the CBSE, you have to go onto the ECFMG website and make an online student portal, and you have to request like a student ID. And obviously this might be different at every school. Maybe you don't have to do this at your school, but this is how it is at mine. So you have to request a student ID, and that itself can take, I think, 3 to 7 business days, it says on the website. So that's another week down the road while you're waiting. And then once you get that, then you can log in onto your student portal on the ECFMG website, pay a $45 fee, and then request your certification slip, or I can't remember what it's called. Let me check. Okay, it's your certification statement. And then depending on what school you go to, whatever the rules are at your school, then you will have to mail that to your school by post. So that's another week down, which, you know, unless you expedite the parcel. And then once you do that, the school will receive it, and then from then on there's this kind of 2 to 6 week waiting period where you're just kind of waiting, obviously studying in the meantime like I am, and you will be essentially waiting for that permit. So your permit is a permit that comes from ECFMG, and those of you who aren't sure what that is or haven't seen my other videos where I talk about it, it's basically the American National Accreditation Board for international medical students. And so all of the people who will eventually come from different countries in the world who have different backgrounds and from different countries in medicine, of course, have to all go through this accreditation body. And so then you're waiting and waiting and waiting, and then you get your permit, and once you get your permit, that means that now you can log into a Prometric site and find a testing center near you and then book your step 1. So as you can see, it's a really long process. You know, you pass CBSE, then it's a week to get your student ID, then it's probably another couple of days for your school to receive your certification thing, and then after that, you're waiting for another several weeks, over a month potentially, to book your exam. And then once you actually can book your exam, you have to find a testing center that can fit you in as soon as possible or whenever you want to book. And I've never been able to book an exam at a testing center less than 1 month in advance. So if you are about to go through the same process that I'm going through, definitely keep all this in mind and remember how much time it actually is going to take between passing comp and being able to actually sit for step 1. So I hope that that was a useful explanation of the process of certifying to take step 1. For those of you who may have fast forwarded through that, I know it may not have been useful to everyone, but thanks for sticking out till the end. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I'm in that kind of no man's land waiting period where I'm not sure when I'm going to be taking step, but it'll most likely be at the end of July or hopefully no later than the first week of August. And so yeah, I'm just studying, waiting, willing time to go by faster. As you guys know, I'm thoroughly sick of studying for step 1. But that's why I haven't been here, and I just have been focusing on my studies because obviously I want to become a doctor and I love YouTube and everything, but it's just not a priority when I am studying for something that is this important. So thanks for bearing with me and, you know, staying subscribed. And I also just wanted to say a huge thanks to all the people who have left such amazing comments and sent me great messages on Twitter and Instagram, and on YouTube I guess you can send messages too now. I have met a surprising amount of you guys on the internet now who have been through the exact same thing as me or are in the middle of studying for step 1, who have been studying for months and months and months and just feel like they're in a rut. And so the reason that, you know, I feel comfortable putting all this out there is because I know there are so many people who are in the same boat, just struggling and trying to get through and trying to be able to just, you know, pass friggin' step 1. So yeah, I'm thankful for all of you guys for keeping me on my toes and sending me inspirational messages and things like that. It really has just been so nice. And that's pretty much it. I will say one more thing. I am pretty active on Twitter when I'm not making YouTube videos, so if you want to get in touch with me, I usually respond to my Twitter messages and stuff like that pretty quickly, more quickly than I do my blog, email, and other emails. So yeah, you can see me there if you want. And that's pretty much all I have to say today. I will hopefully see you guys in the near future. And I hope you guys have a great summer. And if you're studying for step 1, stay disciplined and you can do it. We can all make it through eventually. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.